Hello, everybody. A very warm welcome to today's Disruptive Business Leadership live stream. I'm your stand-in host today, Lynnaire Johnston. Thank you so very much for joining us. We have a very special guest panelist with us today, Brenda Meller from Detroit. Hello, Brenda, and thank you for agreeing to join us. I know you've had a really busy week, and we are just thrilled that you would take some time to come and talk to us today, because we're going to be talking about how your brand is being interpreted on LinkedIn and by AI, with or without you. And that is such a topic that's right up your street that we couldn't not want to hear from you. So I'm really glad that you accepted our invite to join us today. So I want to just do a bit of housekeeping first of all. So thank you to our other guest panelists today. Roy Kowarski from Sydney. Roy, of course, is the exhibition man, your exhibition partner from Out There Branding. This is normally his show, but today he's still recovering from his operation and doing very well. Apparently planning to run a marathon next week. Felipe, thank you for joining us too. It's always lovely to see your smiling face in our live streams. And of course, our lovely Mel Richards from New York. So thank you, Mel, for always being the person that we can count on to be here on these live streams. We'd love to hear your comments in the chat. Hello and good morning from New Zealand to Meryl Cass, who likes to make sure that everybody and anybody knows about our live streams. And I can already see some great people in our audience in the comments. Thank you so very much for joining us live. It's great to have people in the audience and asking questions even. So please do that too, and we'll try to make sure that we cover everything. Now, we've got a lot to get through today, so I want to just talk briefly about what I'm hoping that we'll be able to achieve today. So with everybody's help, we're going to explore how LinkedIn and AI systems interpret brand signals and what that means for the organizations that are not actively managing this on LinkedIn. So we will be looking at those specific signals that platforms and AI read, mainly LinkedIn, of course, and how organizations can work with them rather than against them. And I'm hoping that we're going to provide some practical direction for you, because I do think, and Roy often says this, that it's important to go away with something that you can implement right away and make sure that you put into action some of the things that we are talking about. So I think that where I'd like us to start today is the fact that LinkedIn as a platform has changed dramatically with the arrival of AI. We talk a lot about how that affects us in our profiles and our own professional brand, but today I'd like it to be more about our companies and our company brand. Some of us have got company pages, some of us don't. Even if we do have a company page, or even if we don't, AI still has an opinion about us. And so what I really want to do is to start by talking about how we think, or we hope, our brands are being seen by AI in this new world. And I want to start by talking about the changes that have come about because of the arrival of AI. Now, Brenda, you're our guest today, and so I'd like to start with you and ask you about how you are seeing brand reputation changing in the past few years, and particularly more recently when it comes to the arrival of AI.
I think AI, first of all, I think we're using the term AI so much. I was thinking about this walking Pepper earlier. AI actually stands for artificial intelligence. And I want to remind everybody about that, because we've gotten so wrapped up into, oh my goodness, AI is the future and it's this wonderful thing. It is still artificial intelligence. It's kind of like if you've ever had ice cream, real vanilla bean ice cream versus vanilla flavored, which is artificial vanilla ice cream. So I want us all to remember that. Like, let's not lose sight. This is the new shiny object syndrome thing that's out there, but it's still artificial intelligence. Now, having said that, there were people that when social media first came out, they were like, oh, it's a fad, it's not marketing. And then social media kept going on. And I think AI is into that, the public and everyone is now embracing it and using it. So from a brand reputation perspective, I think it does really give many new people and organizations of different sizes, especially smaller to mid-sized organizations, a leg up, especially if they don't have a marketing strategist or a brand strategist that's helping them, because they can plug things into their favorite AI tool and say, write this webpage copy, or create my LinkedIn company page description, or create my LinkedIn posts. But I think we want to really be careful that we're not using it as a crutch and as a replacement. We should be reading the things first and say, does this match our brand value? Does this match our brand voice? Right. So I'll start us off with that, Lynnaire. How does that sound?
That sounds like a very good place to start, because I absolutely agree. And it is important to remember that it's a tool that isn't here to take over, no matter what the conspiracy theorists like to tell us. It is something that we should be using in conjunction with what we are doing ourselves. But I do think that at this point, firstly, things are changing dramatically very quickly. It's very hard to keep up. And secondly, a lot of people haven't yet understood the changes that are coming or are really already here on the back of AI. But one person who does understand all this is Felipe. So let's pop it over to you, Felipe, and ask you how you're seeing brands are changing or their public perception of them as a result of AI. Or are you seeing any change at all at this point?
No, I mean, there's definitely a few areas, two that stand out to me is AI is a skill in the world of people applying for jobs, having them on their resumes as a requirement of, are you AI literate, basically? And that's been a big trend. But specifically with the brand, one thing that I don't think people are understanding is people were so proud to finally understand and grab the concept of SEO. Now, there's GEO. Which all it means is that, are you searchable on the AI platforms like you were on Google and Bing and everything else? But it's one of those things where I think that's where people don't understand. That's how powerful this is going to be. And I actually went to Copilot or Gemini. I've never used Gemini ever. And I did a search on my past companies and on myself. I said, tell me about this person's brand or whatever. And I was actually pretty impressed. It was pretty accurate, even down to my core values that I talk about. There are a few quotes of mine in there. So I do think that you want to check on it, because you never know what people are out there saying and what reviews are saying out there. And with AI, it's a whole different ball game. So I do see brands having to become more educated, and companies having to have someone on their brand and marketing team that is AI savvy, not just, oh, I know how to use it. No, do you understand how the ripple effect is and how it's going to impact our brand?
I really like the idea that you've just suggested here about asking AI about yourself. And that is a really good test. And this is something that I've been advocating people do for a while as well. Because if you do a Google search for your name and also your company name, and then you do a search for yourself and your company in AI, it's really revealing about what can be found and what is missing. And I think that is the important thing to recognize, that if something is missing with Google, it's just missing. I mean, it just means it can't be found. But if it's missing from AI, but AI still has an opinion about you, in the sense of, if somebody's asking about a company in your niche and you don't come up, then you are missing the boat altogether when it comes to AI. So I think that doing a test like you suggested, and I think a Google test and then or a search rather, and then an AI search is a really good practical thing to do. So that's an excellent first tip to get us started. Felipe, I hope you've got a whole bunch more of those coming right on up for us today. Mel, let's move over to you, because you're all about trust. And I think that this has a very big impact in terms of trust, the whole arrival of AI and its impact on brands. How do you see that?
I'd like to combine something that Brenda and Felipe said with your frame. We need to remember, human to human, way back when brands were just, are you a business to business brand? Are you a business to consumer brand? And we got into this pattern of using acronyms. One of the things that I was really reminded of after a cool linkability insights with Lynnaire about how, about building trust on LinkedIn when AI gets it wrong. It caused me to really go and search and use AI in a way that I don't usually do it. I did what Felipe said. I looked up certain terms that I use, and in Lynnaire's linkability community, someone was asking, did anybody still use hashtags? I was shocked on AI to find hashtags that I've been using for like 7 years. I'm not the most frequent poster. Events are my jam, and cultivate trust is my lane. But what I found is we really need to pay attention to all of it, human to human, from an intelligence perspective, with curiosity. Because I think sometimes when we're interpreting stuff and someone else gives us the answer or the definition to the abbreviation, we're sometimes inspired to stop exploring. And that part I'd love to invite our listeners to keep exploring and to stay curious about our own opinions, regardless of what the platforms or AI tell us we should think, say, or do.
Oh, I think that's very wise advice. And it's very easy, isn't it, just to hand everything over to AI and believe everything it says, which is not a good move. So that's a really important thing to have mentioned. Mel, thank you for that. Over to Roy, because you're working in brand visibility all the time, Roy. How are you seeing AI affecting what people are doing and their own visibility? And are they really looking at AI as something that they should be using, or are they tending to hold it at arm's length at this point?
Well, I'll first of all start to tell you how I've embraced it and in my business. Now, you might or might not know, but I've got a personal profile and a company profile. I've got a newsletter. We do podcasts. So I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. And I took a step back out of my business and I said, how am I going to embrace AI? But I also don't want to forget the fact that, I'm a human being and I understand about the right words and the right, positioning of branding. So what I did was I got an AI specialist and I paid her and she's helped me to create agents. Something I didn't know about. And what that did was it starts to listen to what your business is all about. So every time you use the process of AI, it's getting to know you better and better and better and better. So what I do is I take AI and I use the human involvement and I put them together like this, so that I listen to what AI has to say. I look at it and I see what I want to say. It is a better version of that. But most times, the more you're telling it about yourself and your business, the better it's getting to know you. And the better it gets to know you, the easier it is to work with it. But what I am finding with other companies is it's like a pushback. We don't, we just, this is too complicated. Or they just copy and paste. And man, copy and paste don't work because there are too many people, and the searches that take place very much can pick up straight away. This is the copy and paste. So I did what Felipe did. What suggested was I went and did a search on myself and my company, and I asked AI, tell me a little bit about this character and his business. And from there, I started to mold what I thought would be a good overview of how I do things, why I do things, what I do things, and how I comment and my content as well. So that's how I approached AI. And it's a work in progress. There's no such thing as I've mastered it, because I haven't. But I promise you that I'm on the road to exactly where I'd like to be.
Well, I admire you for getting onto agents so very, very quickly, because I think that that is something that we should all be looking at. It's the next step really up on in terms of use of AI. And I have just recently started using agents as well. I wanted to put this onto the screen because it made me laugh, but my use of an agent has been to set up a LinkedIn-centric AI chatbot for my membership community. And what that means is that people can go to it and ask questions about LinkedIn, only about LinkedIn, and have them answered. And I've been really impressed with how it works, because not only does it answer the question, it takes it that one step further. The "would you like me to help you with" step. And I wasn't expecting it to do that. But again, I think that fits into what you're talking about, Roy. The more you use AI, the better it understands you. Now, whether or not that translates into visibility, in other words, whether somebody else can then find out more about you by using AI, my knowledge is not enough to answer that question. But I do think that it's rapidly improving, as we have seen in the last 12 to 18 months. And that is only going to happen more. This time next year, our conversation will be completely different on the back of what's happened with AI in the meantime. And I think that it's important for anybody who is dragging their feet on it to really get to grips with it. And so, yes, finding and building agents is definitely the next step. So let's talk about company pages, Brenda. You know a lot about company pages. It's one of my areas of interest as well. And so I would like to pick your brains about how you see AI impacting company pages. Here's my current thinking on this, is that company pages have long been the domain of the marketing and comms teams. And what they pump out is just content about the company. We've done this. We all went to this conference. Here's something that else we're fabulous at, or just it's all about me when it comes to companies. And I'm wondering whether AI is an opportunity for organizations to see it slightly differently and to use the opportunity to turn it around and make it about their customers or about their team members. So in an employee advocacy kind of way. So are you seeing any companies doing this, or seeing AI as something that they can use to improve their company pages or to do it differently? And let's just leave aside for the moment the fact that company page posts really reach nobody. There are other reasons for company page, but I'm interested in how you see this.
Yeah, so I am very similar to our friend Michelle J. Raymond in, how I see company pages, and I don't feel that's a negative that company page reach is so low. I look at it as highly concentrated, because when people come to your company page post, really the only people who see your page posts are people that come and visit your page. And then when they're scrolling down, they're seeing one post from you, next post from you, and it's almost like you're in blinders. That's the only thing that you're seeing from the page. So if you think about it that way, would you rather have 10 of the right people reading your messages, or 3,000 of a smattering of people? There might be a couple that are the right people reading us. So I'm okay with that. Having said that, Lynnaire, I do work with a couple of organizations on company page management right now. And that's actually come back recently. It was something I was doing pre-pandemic, and now organizations are starting to seek me out for it. So I think there's interest in the company page size of things. I'm also seeing each of these organizations being open and receptive to using AI as a part of company page content creation. And I think it's allowing us to we all need to start with a marketing strategy. So anytime I work with organizations on helping them with company page, I always start the conversation with, what are your goals for your company page on LinkedIn? Because it doesn't matter what we do if we don't know what our goals are. If your goals are only to grow followers, then we can use the company page invitation feature and just knock that out. Or we can ask all of our employees to invite 50 followers a month, but to what end? Who cares if we have 9,000 or 90 followers on their page if we're not, what are we doing with them, right? So if we can start with, if we have a strategy for our page, we understand what are our top maybe 3 goals for the page, who are the audiences that we're speaking to. And it's almost like starting with a marketing brief and then maybe bringing in your brand and messaging guidelines, and you can upload those to your AI. And then you can say, based on the fact that we're trying to reach this target audience with these goals using this messaging and voice, can you give me ideas for 25 different LinkedIn posts? And I'm just making that number up right now. But we can use that as a tool to help us to jumpstart that idea generation process. And I've always heard, I heard it first from my friend Kendra Corman, your AI, artificial intelligence, don't forget that, your AI tool is like an unpaid intern with limitless hours. But it's an intern and it needs to be coached, and you need to be reading everything that it gives you, and it's going to get some things wrong, and you're going to correct it, and you're going to need to say, I corrected this already, you made the mistake again. So we need to like use that oversight going into it. But another thing Kendra taught me was like, your AI is kind of like what a calculator is to math. It helps to speed up the calculation process. And I don't know about all of you, but nowadays, if you ask your kids or a teenager or something how to do math, they're pulling it up on their phone. They're, Alexa, what's this for? We're all using it, but we're using a calculator, in whatever format. We're not sitting down with pencil and where even are the pencils in this house anymore? We're not doing math in long form anymore. We're using calculators for that. And I think we've all moved towards using AI, but we got to be smart about how we're using it. Does that perspective help?
Yeah, thank you. And you're quite right. I can't do long division anymore, but I was certainly taught to do long division, and I just pick up my phone and calculate anything. But unfortunately, maths is not my strong point. I very rarely can add 2 and 2 and equal 4, but fortunately I can string a sentence together. So at least I've got something going for me, and I don't always have to use AI to be able to do that. But where I think AI is a great leveler is that it does help people who are perhaps for whom English is a second language to be able to write really good posts and to come up with some good content ideas. But my current interest in content is how that is currently changing and how we need to be doing that differently. But that is outside the scope of this conversation. I'll be writing more about that on LinkedIn myself, because I think that we do have to pay attention to that. But I want to come on to Felipe and ask him how he's seeing brands now, and whether he's got any examples of organizations with their digital presence and how AI is interpreting that digital presence, and whether or not those companies are seeing what they want AI to see, or whether AI is interpreting them differently. Because I think that's part of the problem here, is that we think that AI is, and the world is seeing us in one way, but in actual fact, the perception through AI or through with other people is quite different, and there's that disconnect. So are you seeing that with the organizations that you're involved with at all, Felipe?
Yeah, I am actually. And what I'm seeing a lot of is, it goes back to what I think Roy was mentioning earlier, is people who are going into it, they're not expecting what they expect. They're going into using AI and they're assuming that it already knows them, that it already understands them. And that's already going down a negative path. But I do see those that are starting to see the value of it, still expecting what they expect. But an example of that would be, for example, you asked earlier, does this belong in, or does LinkedIn belong in marketing and communications? I would argue that they definitely should have a hand in it, but I think that HR and business development should have equal arms in it as well. Now, here's the reason why. I think whatever business strategy we have, let's think outside of LinkedIn. Whatever business strategy you have, what is the right platform for you? Now, LinkedIn started off as a job platform. Right there, it tells you HR has got a connection from the OG point right there. There's a reason why people. So why are you promoting car parts from your mechanic car parts versus promoting your workplace? And I think that's where the strategy, you got to figure out, are you promoting things in the right place? Promote the car parts on Instagram and Facebook. you'll get a lot more people resonate with you. But are you promoting the right things? And that's where I think AI can help you. I always told our comms team, said, look, if you don't want me to do posts, go ahead and at least do some research on AI and have it do 5 posts on relevant workplace topics and see what it comes up with. And when they started seeing that, they're like, oh, these are good things. They go, now tweak it, customize it, put it into your voice, but now you're getting some really relevant topics. And they started seeing the value of that. And that kind of took the pressure of what are we going to post about, even though it's not really LinkedIn relevant. At least they're posting relevant stuff now because they've done some research with AI, and AI helped them create the post or create the draft, if you will. So I think but the strategy is the important part, I think, for everyone.
I think that's really valuable to think about HR as part of the LinkedIn company page content process. And I bet a lot of companies aren't doing that. And it would really help them to be seen out there in the marketplace as ideal employers if they felt that the company was talking about workplace issues and how they're solving them. And because, as you say, it is often a lot of people are on LinkedIn for job hunting. Even these days, yes, some of us, like those of us who are here because we have businesses, but a lot of people are still using LinkedIn for job seeking. And so to find organizations that are talking about HR issues in a really positive way, I think is excellent use of company page. And I can see that having a really positive impact on AI in terms of the companies being found by AI in searches, because let's not forget that LinkedIn is the second most cited source of answers to business questions that are asked of AI. And I'm seeing that everywhere now. People are talking about this. So it's really important, I think, to keep that in mind, that if you are putting content out on LinkedIn, that it is available now to AI, even if your AI tells you it can't read it, as mine is still doing. But anyway, so excellent suggestions, and thank you for that, Felipe. Roy, now you are a brand specialist, and so what I'm interested in is how you are seeing the intersection between the merchandise that people are using at their trade shows and exhibitions, and how they are using their LinkedIn to be able to pull those two things together. Is there a connection between the two? How does AI come into the picture when it comes to making that brand and those values available and visible to people on both sides, the physical merchandise and what they're seeing on LinkedIn from a company?
Well, the answer to that is a very, very short answer. Most companies haven't got a clue about actually putting the whole thing together. And I just loved what Brenda said earlier on, is you got to play this game smartly. This is a strategy. It's not just, you don't just jump in and hope and pray this is going to work. Now, I've utilized my company page to share insights and aspects around my knowledge, experience, and expertise in the exhibition arena, and I'm just gonna refer back to Brenda straight away, because the fewer people that come there to see what you are about, if they get there and they can get some value out of it, they will follow you. And that's what I have found, is that I'm actually getting business from LinkedIn because people go to my company page. And just for what it's worth, I cross-reference between my company page and my personal profile all the time. And I have a little footer that talks about me and my company all the time. So if anyone's interested, they can just tap on the company and it takes them there. And when they get there, there's things that they can use and learn from, and there's value for them. That word is so important, because if you can provide value to people, that's when they'll want to do business with you. And again, I'm just going to throw one other piece in that we haven't spoken about, and that is how few people concentrate on LinkedIn recommendations. I mean, that is the credibility that takes place when somebody wants to know, should I be working with this guy? And guess what? When you use AI to check on that, It checks on your recommendations. So you're missing an opportunity if you don't use it. So to answer your question, I have this framework, this exhibition framework that talks about targeted merch and how you should use it. But I think that there are too many companies that purchase a trade show stand and then they say, what should I do next? They go look online. Oh, I like that piece of merch. Or that's a great piece of merch. And they buy it, but they have no idea that each piece of merch has to have a purpose. It's got to have a strategy. It's got to know what it's going to achieve. Is it brand awareness? Is it pre-qualification? Is it appreciation? Is it door opening? Nobody talks like this because most people think about merch. Let me go and have a look online and see what I like. Well, what you like is very different to what is going to achieve an outcome for you. So I think it's a combination of how you do things, why you do things, and what strategy you employ. And if you don't use it, if you're not prepared to use AI to help you on that process, you're missing a trick.
I would agree with that. And I like what you mentioned about the company pages because it combines what Brenda said earlier about the content that people are seeing on your company page and the variety of that and how you get people to visit your company page. And I am like you. I tend to put a footer onto my posts or sometimes even my comments that actually take people, that's a link or a tag to the company page. But what I haven't really been considering is what they see when they get there. And so that's something that has been my aha moment so far in this first half hour, is to go back and have a look and just see what kind of content people are looking at when they look at my company page. So I'm going to go into member view and I'm going to do what Brenda suggested. I'm going to scroll down and just see what kind of content is in there. And I have a horrible feeling it is going to be all about me and what I do and not enough about how we can help other people. So I'm going to be making some changes to that one in this coming week and using AI to do so. So I really appreciate both of you have helped pull this one together for me. So I want to be specific in this next section and ask about what AI is actually using or looking at to form a view of our brand, because we've already established that even if you don't have a presence on LinkedIn, that is still a signal to AI, and we want to make a really good impression with AI. We want our brand to be discovered and surfaced and answers to questions naturally. So what is AI actually using to do this? Is it using our company page? Is it using content from our profiles? Is it using our own personal content? What else outside LinkedIn is it using to form an opinion about our brand? Brenda, let's start with you on this one. What are you seeing about how brands are being surfaced by AI in a particular way?
You know, this is a really interesting question because as you're asking it, I'm like, gosh, should she be asking someone who's an AI developer this question? Because it reminds me a bit, Lynnaire, of the age-old LinkedIn algorithm question. You know, there's all of us out here who are interpreting what we see and what we are doing on the platform. And LinkedIn's always, you know, a step ahead of us when it comes to the algorithm. They're making changes, and then we're like, oh, we just discovered the changes, and then we're teaching it. And then the people that we're teaching it to are learning what we learned a year ago or 2 years ago. And I think it's similar with AI in that AI is kind of, I'm going to, you know, in my layman's terms, because I'm not an AI technical specialist, I'm going to say AI is doing a scan of the website universe and is trying to pull from reputable sources. Oh, LinkedIn's a really reputable source, so this is going to rank a little higher. Plus, you know, these reputable websites and all the, you know, backlinks and things and consistent thoughts that are put out there. And I'm going to give one specific example of how I can say AI gets it wrong. I have a client who's reached out to me a few times we've done some coaching one-on-one, and then sometimes in between sessions, he'll email me a bunch of questions and he'll say, I got this advice. And he gives me the advice about LinkedIn, and he's going through and saying section by section on his profile, what the advice was that he was to change. And one piece of advice, it talked about LinkedIn creator mode and how he needs to change his 5 hashtags to match the 5 things he's talking about. And those of you who are LinkedIn strategists are laughing along with me, because I said, where did you get this advice? And he said, AI. And I said,
Yes.
aha. And it hasn't happened on just one occasion. It hasn't happened on 2 occasions. Multiple times people reach out. So I actually created a blog and a podcast episode that was called Why People Continue to Work with Me as Your LinkedIn Coach and Strategist. And someone in the comments, I apologize, I don't see the name who said it, but it's like, we still need people. Because remember, artificial intelligence, it's not real intelligence. They're trying to mimic what we are all doing. They're trying to mimic human behavior and everything. Having said all that, Lynnaire, LinkedIn is a highly reputable website. And one comment I made in the comments, and I was thinking about this during the call, our profiles, we can set privacy settings. We can show our profile and our content to connections only, so it can be a bit limited. It's not going to get out to Google. Company pages are wide open. So I don't have the data to back this up, but I would say we know LinkedIn's highly reputable. We know that company pages are wide open. I think there's an opportunity there from an AI perspective. I'll just leave the audience to think about that.
I couldn't agree with you more. And it's one of the main reasons I think we need to pay attention to company pages because it is the authority of record when it comes to AI about our brand. So I think that's a really important thing. Felipe, what are you seeing in terms of AI finding brands and what are they looking for?
I'm finding that, AI, especially if you use the deep research aspect of it, it can really find some really deep rooted, information. Because when I was saying before, I did a research on myself, I did the original research, then I had to do a deep research. What I liked about the deep research is it told me it didn't look just at LinkedIn, it was looking at YouTube, it was looking at this website, it was looking at Amazon, it was looking at buy me a cup of coffee, because I've used that in the past, a few times. And so that it really does, I think, a little bit more, if you wanted to, a deeper research. And I think what's happening is that people understand that with their companies, people are not just happening on bad reviews. They're finding them like that. One of the biggest trends that I've been seeing is, and I've experienced it myself during my interview processes over the last year, companies have bad reviews because they know that they're so easily searchable with AI now, having an immediate explanation as to why those reviews are on there and what they're doing to work towards it, which is a good thing. But it lets you know how aware they are of, before they didn't have to do that unless it got brought up. Now they're being proactive. But the other thing is, I think people also realizing that they're using AI to help them be relevant and resonate with the right audiences. Realizing that some of the younger generation like animation, for example, and like a little comedy and animation, and a bank that used to be so serious now is using some AI to get creative and have some fun. Guess what? That's resonating with people. So I think that's where it's important for people to understand is AI's got a lot of power to help your brand, especially if it's something that you haven't really done a lot of in the past. Prime example, 30 years of HR, I write a children's book. What am I going to do now? I'm using AI to help me promote it, but am I promoting on LinkedIn? Sorry, LinkedIn. I'm going to create a page on Instagram. I think that's where people are going to resonate with it more. But am I going to share about it on LinkedIn? Absolutely, because it still touches the family side of my brand. So I think companies see that and they're going to lean into that more and more. But they are seeing the value of it, I think, and they're starting to lean into it.
Mel, thanks, Felipe. Mel, where does trust come into all of this? Can AI help us build trust and trust in our brands? And if so, how do we make that happen? I mean, I don't know whether you can make it happen or whether it just has to be built over time. So have you got an opinion about how this all works together?
I appreciate Lynnaire and our conversations on this. I think it's impossible to build trust. You can establish it, You can invite it. You can cultivate it. You can welcome people into trusted communities and circles. You can let people feel heard, seen, and valued. And I love it because as part of preparing for today's presentation, I went and looked at, I wanted to know, I was working on a project for a client about event sponsorship, and I was building a case history. And as part of it, I wanted to go back and separate what people are doing digitally, what they're doing online, as compared to what they're doing at live events, because I'm in that hybrid space. What do you do in both spaces? How does a conversation become a connection, become a relationship, become a client? I had to realize for myself, personally, from a trust lens, when I meet someone, I know when I'm going to hire you. You may not know it yet, but I know this. And I found it interesting because when looking through AI for brands that are specializing in virtual sponsorship, they're basically talking about business to business brands and business to consumer brands, but they're not telling you what we're looking for. How can you help us solve problems? And that human part, I don't think AI mentions that. It's not in any of the descriptions of the top 10 virtual brands. It tells you kind of who they serve, but it doesn't tell you how they can help them. It reminds me of, I think it's Mike LeBlanc's comment about how do you communicate in a way so that customers are interacting with you, or what I like to call ideal future clients. And that's the part that I think AI is missing. You're unable to know that my ideal future client is somebody who's sponsoring an event, and they're trying to figure out how to measure the return to that sponsorship in terms of conversation. AI doesn't tell us how to start a conversation. It can simulate, as others were saying, here's how you might start a relationship, but it's not actually helping us take the steps to do what I call calls to connect. It's missing that part of the equation. And I think there's an opportunity there. Whoever's designing it, if you had calls to connect, we want to connect with people who help us solve problems. We're not necessarily looking to connect with more subject matter experts. I don't know a better way to say it. From an AI perspective, if you Google it and it doesn't tell you the source, or you're on AI and it doesn't tell you who said it, whose book it's from, whose PDF, what event you met them. And when we're talking with clients, they weren't able to say, they use a badge scanner. They weren't able to tell you. And I laugh because Brenda said it. I always have a pen nearby. What did you say that I need to remember later? And what would be the opportunity to help you solve that problem? And I think that's what AI and the language manuals, I think that's what they're missing.
That makes sense to me. And I have to say there's some great comments in the comments thread here, and I've only just realized that I should be putting them on the screen. So apologies if you've put something in there that was quite detailed and I've not actually shown it, because people are really getting into this conversation, and I'm so thrilled because I think this is something that's really important for all of us as business owners to be thinking about. So finally, in this round, Roy, over to you about how you are seeing brands and AI work together and what tools are being used.
Well, I suppose I'm going to revert back to, to what I said about having employed somebody to help me with the AI process. I'm a firm believer that, go to the experts. You want to know about company pages, go and speak to Lynnaire Johnston, go and speak to Brenda Meller, go and speak to Michelle Raymond. These are people that know what they're talking about. Don't go and listen to, as Brenda said, where did this come from? I don't know. I Googled it. That's exactly. Go to the experts. Go to the people that know what they're talking about. And I think that what I've learned from my AI go-to lady, and Brenda, and I think that's just, you mentioned that you have a go-to person. I think that's what most people need to consider, is find somebody that knows about it. Don't just mess about in the dark, because when you're in the dark and you start fiddling around, you don't actually know what you're going to touch. When the light is on, you can see exactly what you're going to be doing. And I think that's the biggest challenge that companies have, is they think to themselves, well, this AI, this is like, it's the flavor of the month. But the reality, AI is here to stay, whether we like it or not. And what we do with it and how we do it, that's the key element. I wanted to just highlight one aspect that that Brenda was talking about early on, and about company pages particularly. I asked a number of people that have reached out to me to say, can you help us, prepare for an exhibition? I said to them, how did you get hold of me? They said, we went to your company page on LinkedIn, and there was a resource there to help us. And that's really the essence of company pages. I use an analogy, and I'm going to share it with you. It's like somebody walking around an exhibition. I call that LinkedIn. So they're walking around LinkedIn, and they look at this stand, they look at that stand, and then you meet somebody, and they say to you, what do you do? And you say, well, my company is at that stand over there. And then they come to your company page, which is your stand. And that's the analogy that I've used many, many times, because that's what a company page does. When somebody comes there, they need to learn something, they need to get some insights, they need to get some value. And this aspect of utilizing AI to enhance what you do, how you do it, this thing with agents has really opened my eyes, because with agents, what they're doing is they're learning more about you all the time. And every time they spit out some more content or aspects that you can learn, that you can use, they're more honed to what is your core values, your brand positioning, your values and principles of your company. And if you can do that, then what you're doing is you're enabling people to be able to come to you because you can help them. That's it. Not complicated.
Well, again, we've come back to this point about company pages being a place where people can come to find information that they are looking for, right? They're not looking to find out how wonderful we are or necessarily the services we offer. They're coming to solve a problem. And if your company page is the one that has the answer to their problem, as in that resource that you just mentioned, Roy, then they are going to take note. You are going to become the go-to company because they know that you have got information and ideas that can help them, so that when they're ready to buy, guess whose name's going to be top of mind. And so I think that all of this is a really good reason why we should be paying more attention to company pages rather than less. And let's not forget that we have all been conditioned by SEO and social media to think about what is to think that the most important thing is reach, the number of views, the number of likes, the number of comments. But these are vanity metrics that mean absolutely nothing. And if somebody is looking to find the answer to a question and that answer is on your company page, then that is what is going to come up in an AI search. So let's make sure that people really thoroughly understand that. Now, that was a really good example, Roy, and I'd like to just go around the room in our last 10 minutes and talk and ask about other examples that people know about and can reference or share with us of companies that are doing this well, that they have a really strong presence on LinkedIn with their brand. That may be through their company page only. It may be through their company page and their team members, which is my favorite. And it might be something else entirely. Maybe it's holding company events. I'd love to hear what people are seeing on LinkedIn that is working really well in terms of providing information that can be sourced and indexed by, not indexed, but can be sourced by AI, discovered by AI, and then surfaced in answer to those business questions. So, Brenda, let's hear from you. Have you got any examples that you can share with us? Companies doing it well? Maybe some companies doing it not as well as they might. Or the companies that you're working with are going to be doing it great, I bet. You're on mute for some reason. I didn't accident. That's all right.
Let me try that again. When you say companies doing it well, define what you mean by it.
brand awareness, sharing information and ideas, answering questions, and being the solution to problems.
Yeah. I think the companies that are doing that well are the companies, I'm going to go back to what I said earlier, that have a strategy that they're coming in with, that have clearly defined who that target audience is that they're working with. They've also embraced employee advocacy, because their employees are probably doing outreach and helping to bring people to the page and getting in the comments with the page as well. And they're probably using those rock star, superstar employees as a sounding board when they're thinking about what content do we put on the page. And they're probably also training those employees to respond on the company's behalf. You don't have to come back and check with us, just do it. Because if a customer were to call in and ask a question, you would answer the question. So you don't need to come back to us. And I think I'm going to go back to what Melanie was talking about earlier, this concept of trust. If we're thinking about artificial intelligence as a tool, what I'm hearing from a lot of people is that one of the missing elements is that trust. Like, did an actual person say this or write this, or was it AI? It feels like AI. There's a rocket emoji, so it's probably AI, or it has this. It's not this, but that, cadence to it. It feels AI written. So the ones I think that are doing it well are understanding that they're using AI as a tool. They're not using it as a replacement for their brand voice. They're understanding and they're continuing to keep focus on what are our goals for LinkedIn. I'm going to, go back to the algorithm earlier, because we all get like, well, what's the algorithm telling us to do now? I always say, be aware of it, but don't focus on your target audience and your goals, and, focus on speaking to them. We're not speaking to 1 billion people. We're just trying to speak to those individuals. So I think the ones that are doing it well are just understanding that AI is another tool in the toolbox. It's not replacing human beings. It's not replacing trust. It's supplemental to all of those things. And I think there's still a lot to be said with coming back to basics and really having that strategy as well.
Excellent. All right. Thank you so much for all of that, because I think that we do need to keep our goals and outcomes in mind, which is something that a lot of us either don't put in place first of all, or our outcomes and goals can change and we don't recognize that, and our strategy doesn't change accordingly. So that does make a lot of sense to me. Felipe, what are you going to share with us on this particular question? I'm sure you've got some really interesting examples.
Well, so first, high level, I want to give kudos to Coca-Cola. They have an AI art generator that they're using to promote things. I know that my daughters and nieces talk about Sephora. That is, they do, I think, makeup, and they do a virtual try-on things they can do. So I see people that are really tapping into AI to promote the brand very well. And here's where I think it's a little controversial what I'm about to just say here, but we all know that our devices are listening, okay? Now, we either buy in or we don't buy in, or we're kind of lazy about it. I mean, look, I got Apple, I got Alexas, I got computers that have microphones. Shut up, Alexa. And so the reality of it, we always say they're listening and we're getting ads. But do you know, over the last 2 months, do you know what the most common ad I have seen, commercial basically, when I'm streaming, because I don't always pay for no commercial and no ads. So when I'm streaming a show or a movie, do you know what ads become the most popular ad I've seen over the last couple months? LinkedIn.
Really?
I'm seeing them like, this has got to be for me specifically, and AI is hearing me talk about LinkedIn all the time in this room, because I see it over and over. And there was another commercial about something I talk about all the time too. I'm like, okay, something's listening. I think that's kind of brilliant, because I'm happy to see LinkedIn promoting itself, but then am I the only one seeing it? Like, did anyone else see this commercial in my house? I'm asking them. They're like, I don't know. I don't pay attention. I'm like, all right, fine. So for the rest of us, I know if we hear LinkedIn, our ears perk up. But I bring that up because if AI is being used ethically, and there are a lot of people out there that say, yes, go ahead, track my stuff, I don't care. Thank you for those people, because that's how they get information. I think there's going to be a lot of valuable information to help people see, like we always complain about, I don't want to see, Roy in the leotard doing his exercises. That's not what I want in my algorithm, you know? I mean, that's not what I asked for. But I want to see dogs and puppies and HR stuff. So that's the things I think that as long as the algorithm is accurate and ethical, we're good. No offense.
I love all of that, and it reminds me of the time earlier in the year. This isn't anything to do with devices listening. This is to do with data sharing. I went to my library and happened to take out a book about the Washington Post. And within 24 hours of having checked out that book, I was receiving messages and adverts about subscribing to the Washington Post. I'd not said it out loud to anybody. I had done no searches for it on my phone or on the internet at all. It was simply because I had taken this book out of the library. We have no idea how our data is being used. It's really astonishing. And did I subscribe to the Washington Post? Hell yeah. They're clever enough to get to me like that, then absolutely they needed a report like that. Brenda, did you want to say something around that?
I want to say, as we're talking about this, like how my data is being used in AI, I want to make sure everyone in the viewing audience, whether you're watching this live or playback, knows that there's a button inside your privacy and settings area. Now, here in the US, LinkedIn by default has toggled that button to yes, which is it okay for LinkedIn to use your data for AI training purposes? Now, on principle alone, because they've turned it on to yes, I've turned mine off because I didn't like the fact that they didn't ask us. I know in other countries, especially on the EU, the rules are different so that you have to opt in for them to use that. But I just want to remind, because if there's anyone in the US watching this, they may not be aware of this. I'm going to find the link in your settings and I'm going to drop it into comments. I'm aware that my information is being used by AI tools, and the public information, I don't have an issue with that. I do have an issue. And if anyone from LinkedIn is watching, I respect LinkedIn. I think it's a great platform. What I don't like is that was an opt-in without asking us first. And if you need to train your AI models, then you go and train your AI models, but don't use my information without my permission.
Do you have it turned on now, Brenda?
No, it's off. It's still off. I won't put it back on.
No, same for me. I just wanted to check that I was still doing the right thing. So thank you for mentioning that. And I think that is a very important point to note too. Mel, we're over to you now. And so we're looking for examples, I think. Is that what I actually asked? Was it examples where AI and LinkedIn are working well together?
I have an example in the opposite area. And I'll say it from a LinkedIn group that I'm part of that has more than 500,000 event people. And I discovered this group by accident. I put a poll in there a couple of years ago without really posting. And 1,200 people responded within 24 hours. But what I noticed is there's a post that is repeating in that group and on individual pages. And on the LinkedIn profile pages that it's appearing on, they're obviously trying to market to VPs of marketing and to CROs, to revenue officers who are interested in reducing their conference budgets for next year. So it's a real specific topic. And it starts out with the budget line. So it's starting out by emphasizing return on investment. I measure returns differently by talking about how can we measure energies and engagement and conversations and the stages they're going through. And this post is using the same language in a group under individual posts over and over and over. And in the comments, and I think they're turning comments off now on the individual profiles, but people are asking, why am I seeing this same post over and over and over? Someone designed it. It's a template. It's attached to a specific company. In some cases, this post comes up on someone's page, and the only people who are responding are people from that company. Just before today, I was doing a little bit more of research, and I went and looked, and they're advertising for revenue officers. So I started laughing. It kind of is like the misinterpretation And I appreciate it. It helped me come up with the song This Masquerade, which is a George Benson song, as an upcoming Impossible Live topic to talk about it from a trust lens, because sometimes it's leading us down a trail with paths or steps. The brand, maybe this to them is like a marketing infomercial, but it's really being done poorly. And it's not reflecting positively on a brand that maybe actually is trying to reach out and help people solve problems. Tell us how you help and stop telling us who you want to help. Because I think the power dynamics of AI that come through, it helps us not trust the brand. It helps us not trust the profile, no matter how well it's written. And I think from the trust lane, intelligence with the human to human element, if we miss that boat, you're going to run out of people to talk to. Lead generation won't help you. You'll run out of subscribers. You'll run out of people who actually take your call or like, hey, it's Lynnaire, I want to tune in. So I think just being genuine, that part, and I appreciate the comments that are in there, but if there's a way to build in the genuine element, this post keeps popping up. I saved it as a LinkedIn post, Brenda, and I'm looking at it. It's popping up a zillion times. So I think the fact that I toggled off, I still think somebody somewhere is like, let me keep showing her this ad because it's something of interest.
I am really so disappointed that this conversation is coming to an end. Roy, finish us off today with your thoughts on this, and you might like to tell us what's coming up next for Disruptive Business Leadership from next week.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so I think if I can say that we need to embrace and use all resources available to us to assist us on our journey. If you don't do that, you're missing a trick. And I know I refer back to, so many times to what Brenda's spoken about, because it's so true, is that my company page, as an example, very few likes on many of the posts. But guess where the orders come from? People visiting my company page and saying, you've taught me something. I've learned something. And really all it is, it's show up with value and show people how you can help them to overcome obstacles. Because if you can show them how you do it, and they can believe and trust you that you can help them overcome an obstacle, you've got their vote. So again, as we come to the end of another disruptive business leadership session, I first of all want to thank Lynnaire for an absolutely outstanding session with all the preparation that she does, how she puts it together, how she masterminded to get Brenda here. That is a miracle. I mean, Brenda is an absolute authority, and she's been absolutely awesome today. Just to thank all our hosts, Lynnaire, Brenda, Felipe, Melanie, our regulars, Mel and Felipe, we really do appreciate it. To thank our friend Meryl, the master connector, for always, getting us, people to come and join, getting conversations. I mean, I am very interested to see how many comments have been put in today. We've had a record in the past of 120 comments. I think we could have broken it today. So as you know, the month of June was dedicated to the theme of brand reputation and market perception. And the theme for July is going to be innovation, adaptability, and change. Innovation, adaptability, and change. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. Lynnaire, if you'd like to say any last words, this has been an outstanding session, and I can only attribute it to the preparation that you put in for it. And I thank you so much for it.
Well, thank you very much indeed for giving me the opportunity at the end of each month, Roy, to guest host one of your events, because I always look forward to it, because these conversations are dynamic, they're fascinating, I always learn something, and there is plenty for me to take away and implement, which is something that you always say is important from the events. So I want to particularly thank Brenda for joining us today. And my secret tip on on this is to ask. All I did was send Brenda DM inviting her along today, and she very graciously and generously accepted, and we have so appreciated your input, your ideas today, Brenda, and I really do think everybody who is watching, listening, looking at the replay will find value in the things that you have said. So thank you so very much indeed. Thank you very much to Mel for her input from the trust and event side, and for Felipe from the organizational and HR side, and of course our usual host Roy from the branding and exhibition side. We do really appreciate all of your generosity in sharing ideas on these conversations. So thank you very much indeed for having me. Thank you everybody for joining us today. Thank you, Meryl. And with that, I wish you all a very pleasant day or evening, and may the best team win at the World Cup. Thanks everybody. Bye for now.